Hello and welcome to another episode of the Alter Your Health podcast, live, your source of information and inspiration to promote the holistic transformation of your health and the health of our planet. My name's Dr. Benjamin Alter.
And my name's Dr. Susanna Alter.
We are your hosts of this podcast, and we're also licensed naturopathic physicians practicing holistic lifestyle medicine online, worldwide. You can find out more and get yourself scheduled for a complimentary 15-minute consultation by visiting www.alter.health. And by the way, happy, Merry Christmas, Hanukkah, Christmaka, Kwanzaa, whatever it is, happy holidays to you. Happy Boxing Day. That is the day that we are recording this episode live, which, by the way, we do every Thursday at 1 p.m. Mountain Time in our Facebook group called Empowered, PlantBased and StressFree. We have renamed our private Facebook group, which is private just because we like to make sure that everyone who is coming into that group is aligned philosophically and kind of practically with what the information that we're sharing around living your best life, living your most holistically healthy, aligned, happy, and joyful life, which, by the way, is the topic of our episode today.
Yes, and the group is private, but it's open to anyone who is interested in joining.
That's what I was trying to say.
So we invite you to join us over on Facebook if you want to receive continued support between podcast episodes and really learn more in depth about how you can start supercharging your body's innate healing capability.
That's what it's all about. So the group is called PlantBased and StressFree because those are, let's face it, those are the two medicinal qualities or traits or attributes that we can leverage to support the self-healing capacity that your body already has. So that the plant-based nature is obviously the way that we're fueling our bodies optimally, nutrient-dense, real whole foods. The stress-free nature is really how we're thinking and how we're relating to ourselves and the world, and how we can relate in a way that brings out our true nature, brings out our a connection with that which we already truly are. And that's really the most awesome and important thing to focus on when we're having any conversation about lasting health and sustainable well-being, which is the topic of today's episode.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So we've named today's episode "Why You Can Stop Fixing Yourself." Is that the right title?
Yes.
Or it's time to stop fixing yourself.
It's time to stop fixing yourself.
Yes. And the reason why we're bringing this up right now at this time of year is because typically after the Christmas holiday and other holidays this time of year, we start thinking about the new year coming. And
well, let's face it, this is kind of a time of year of maybe indulgence, a little elevated stress from familial circumstances or travel. And we kind of get out of our element, and maybe in some capacity. And then we think, oh, I got to fix, I got to correct, I got to manage, I got to change what I'm doing.
Yeah, and exactly, because it's the new year coming up, January 1st typically marks the day when many people say, okay, that's when I'm really going to start fixing this problem that I have. That's when I'm really going to start resolving all of these issues. And to me, when I hear New Year resolution, it can often come with that kind of energy of, oh, I'm not as good as I should be, and I need to resolve that.
Totally. So that's really what we're speaking to, is to that thought about resolving something. The word resolution, comes from the root to resolve, which means, like, the way I hear it at least, is to fix or to seek a resolution or, to resolve a problem. And let's face it, a lot of us perceive that there are many problems to resolve. A lot of us strive towards living more something, more aligned, more healthfully, eating more vegetables, doing more this, doing more that, exercising more, moving more, stressing less, whatever it may be. We have these, we strive towards more peace, less chaos, more plants, less animals, more
Health.
compassion, less suffering, more health, less disease. And that, what's coming to mind for me right now is that striving is totally natural. And also that energy of moving in the direction of health, moving in the direction of peace, moving in the direction of well being is our inherent nature. We talk about the fact that our bodies are self healing organisms. Any chance we get, we're talking about that reality. And we're using all sorts of examples from nature to prove this fact that the body is self healing. And also, the same is true, like we say, for the mind. The mind is self cleansing, self balancing. We're always seeking, or always actually moving directly in the direction of more peace and well being, mentally and emotionally. That's our inherent pull. So when we're talking about, seeking more of that, seeking more of that which we already are inevitably on a path of, sometimes we can actually end up just getting in our own ways by micromanaging and trying to fix things that we perceive as being wrong or misaligned or to be fixed.
Exactly. And I think what can also come into the whole picture if we have this attitude of, oh, I am lacking and I need to fix something, I need to fix myself, is that we carry, like you said, this striving energy that tends to not come from that authentic place. It tends to not be sustainable because it's manufactured in our thinking mind. It's manufactured by thoughts about, I'm not good enough, I'm broken, I need to do in order to fix. And that kind of energy, that kind of, approach is just not sustainable.
Yeah.
But when the action towards health and wellness and compassion and peace comes from that authentic place inside, it is completely 100% sustainable and it doesn't feel like work. And actually, this came up last night around the dinner table. We went to a big Christmas party, and I was talking with someone who had experimented with becoming more plant based. He said he had tried it for a while, but it couldn't stick because he'd go to people's houses and he'd be offered cookies and he'd be offered this and that and that, and
How
it just
many
didn't
can
stick.
relate? I mean, how many can relate? I think that probably 99% of humans can relate to that in some area of life. Maybe it's not in your diet, maybe it's with your exercise routine or any other plan that you intend to stick with, that things kind of fall apart. It just happens.
Right, exactly. But so what I heard was that he wasn't in a place where it was an authentic intention to eat in a certain way. It came from a place of, oh, I should try this because it'll make me healthier.
So and so is doing that, so I should be doing that too. Or, like, I know that this is what I should. You get the idea. I think the key phrase or the key word in all of this is the shoulds.
Mm-hmm.
And shoulds are something that we do to ourselves all the time, most humans. And anytime we find ourselves in that should energy, we can just identify and realize that it's simply not authentic. There's nothing wrong with having these should thoughts, but when we act upon that, we need to know that the end result is probably not going to be authentically aligned with where we're at right now.
Exactly.
That being said, I think that we can transform a should into some sort of authentic, inspired action. And I don't know, like what comes to mind for you? Like, how would you coach or relate to someone who comes to you, Dr. Suzanne, and says, I know I should be eating more plants. I know I shouldn't be drinking as much. I know I should be moving my body more. Like, how do you navigate that conversation to get out of your way, to get out of one's way, and open up to the authentically aligned, inspired movement rather than the should movement?
Well, yeah, I think the first thing to look into is whether it is a real, authentic direction that someone is wanting to go into. Because what I heard in the conversation that I was having last night was that there was a lot of thinking going on about I should do this, I should do that, blah 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 blah, and then because I think it would be better for me to do this, I'm going to do this. Versus what we see, like what we experienced in our personal experience with changing our diet and changing our lifestyle is that it was really easy because there was a very, very just, authentic. We woke up one day and said, you know what, this behavior or eating this way is no longer serving me, and so I don't want to do it anymore. And that just led to really easy behavioral challenge or changes versus this challenging kind of thought provoked, ooh, I need
Yeah.
to, yeah.
Willpower. I mean, comes with the reliance on willpower, which is really what we observe and witness in ourselves and in the world, is simply an unreliable force that will not carry us sustainably into any sort of well-being, the willpower.
Exactly. So, to answer your question about how would I coach someone who comes to me and says, "Oh, I know I should do this, but I'm having a hard time doing it," I would first ask the person to reflect on how that energy feels in their body, how all of that should energy feels. And does it feel good?
Yeah.
Or does it feel constrictive? Does it feel, like you're trying to control yourself? And
What's coming to mind for me, not that you asked, but what's coming to mind for me is yeah, like actually maybe supporting people and not changing, supporting people in not doing what they think they should, but doing what they feel is aligned in that moment. So if that means eating the Christmas potatoes with cheese and the roasted whatever, then following that feeling in the moment and trusting that the authentic inspiration to shift, to pivot, to open up, to fall into some authentically aligned state of well-being. The first step is in the realm of mind, emotion, mindset, that peaceful feeling, the state that is free from judgment and thought. And when we're in that peaceful feeling, then, and probably only then, can we really, first of all, receive the internal inspiration and guidance that moves us into the next moment, and then clearly have the insight and the inspiration to move in that direction based on that inspiration and wisdom. But anything other than that is going to be unsustainable and short-lived, or maybe it'll last for months or a few weeks or maybe a year or two even. But in terms of what our goals are, personally and also practically when we're working with people, is supporting people in really 100% authentically stepping into that empowered role of their own healer for the rest of their life, not just for the rest of the month or the rest of the weekend or until they feel better from symptom X, but actually stepping into that empowered role forever into their future and relying on themselves to have that capacity to act and choose and to be guided by the wisdom that inspires and moves them in any moment. So, it's like this totally goes against what I have been doing actually, but what's coming to me, I'm just kind of having this insight when someone might say like, oh, I know I should eat more plants. I know I should maybe stop drinking. I know I should stop eating the steaks or whatever it may be. Like maybe the first thing is to not stop, actually continue for as long as one feels necessary. And then, it's like after however many pints of ice cream or whatever the substance of choice is, trusting that insight, that wisdom, which is always present, will pierce itself and wake us up to what is in our highest good, which for some people is shifting the direction of diet and lifestyle choices. But yeah, I guess the theme here is starting with mindset, and that's something that we focus on and talk about all the time, starting with the quality of mind in the moment. And it's funny because people have a hard time wrapping their minds around that and really just want to jump to the behavioral change. But let's face it, when it really comes down to it, the biggest, as came up in the conversation a few weeks back with Dr. Zach Cashin on the podcast, for those of you who listens, he suggested that the primary subluxation that humans experience, where subluxation being kind of a misalignment, is between our ears, and speaking and pointing to the quality of our thinking in the moment. And if we can just kind of identify that, be witness to that, allow that subluxation to self-resolve, self-correct, because that's what certainly our thoughts are always doing, then we can be more open and receptive to moving in the direction that our hearts are really going.
Exactly. And this might sound a little weird to some of our listeners, hearing from two doctors who focus their practice on lifestyle medicine saying, oh, no, you don't have to do and do and do and do and do. But really, it's true. It's true, because we know confidently that those sustainable lifestyle and behavioral and health choices can only come from one place, and that's from you, inside of you. That's from your wisdom. It's not going to come from the willpower, the perseverance, the whatever, the discipline. And so this is why the focus of this episode is really to open up to the possibility that your body is this amazing self-regulating and self-healing organism, and that it knows exactly what you need to thrive. So if that means getting off track, having a cookie to remind you that you actually feel a lot better without all of the sugar and butter and all of that stuff, then that's fine. You don't need to beat yourself up about that.
Yeah.
And
what's interesting for me is like we refrain from butter, sugar, cookies, meat, dairy, eggs, all that stuff 100% of the time.
And it's not work.
It's really not.
And
I'm just open to the possibility that maybe some point down the road in my life, like I might welcome in some external factors, whether it's butter, sugar, dairy, eggs, or meat or something, like just be open to the fluidity of choices in life and insight and inspiration, and rather than think that we have all the answers right now.
Yeah. Yes. And it's gosh, when we really open up to trusting and surrendering the wisdom of the body, then that helps us show up with an open mind in all areas in life.
Yeah.
But really, I think the point that I want to drive home is that your body is not broken, your body does not need fixing, and your mind isn't broken and doesn't need fixing. It has everything it needs, and we can make up all sorts of stories about how it was broken because this happened and that happened, and you need to fix yourself in order to live a healthier life. Yeah, we
But they're
can.
just stories.
They're just stories. They're just stories. And yeah, when we realize that, oh, we have everything we need inside, then the change starts happening from an empowered place.
And let's face it, that realization of, oh, I have everything I need inside, that realization happens probably, hopefully, it happens enough for you to remember and have that reference point. But then we forget, life happens, we forget, and we re remember all the time. And hopefully, you are feeling supported by life itself, by yourself, by your community, by the environment that you live in, feeling supported in a way that allows that remembrance to be natural, organic, happening on an ongoing basis. And if that remembrance is difficult or seems far fetched, then we invite you to come into like our family, our community, our plant-based and stress-free Facebook group, for example, where we are continually reminding you, and other people in the group are reminding you that we've got it, that we're already healthy, we're already whole, and we can actually get out of our way and allow that divine force, that inspiration to move us into that which we already are. And that seems, I mean, it just feels so light and aligned for me to talk about it, even. It's so hard to have these conversations with people sometimes. I don't know if you agree, Susanna, about the, the dirty work of, what do I do when I'm in this environment and someone offers me a cookie or a candy bar, and like that wisdom, those decisions, those choices, that expression comes in the perfect way when we are connected, grounded, at peace, with ourselves, and it's just a nice place to live from.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else?
Well, quickly just want to clarify the difference between living life this way and laziness or apathy or not taking care of yourself, because I think it can be interpreted by some people as like, oh, what, well, if I don't have any discipline in life, then I won't get anywhere in life.
Oh boy,
But
the term discipline comes up.
yes, but the truth is that your innate wisdom would never let you just sit on the couch and become a blob. If you really started tuning into it and listening to it and trusting it,
Yeah.
it simply would not let that happen.
Maybe it will for the afternoon or the weekend, or maybe an entire week you can blob on the couch, but we always have this self-correcting, self-waking up mechanism. And can I provide the example of,
My video games?
yeah.
Yes.
So
I've been
Susanna,
wanting to bring that up.
yeah, so I'll bring it up as an external observer. So Susanna has recently gotten hooked and taken the dive into video games on her cell phone. And when I first walked into the living room and saw Susanna playing this video game on her cell phone, it really caught me off guard, because I never thought that you would be one to play video games on your cell phone. Not that I really hold any judgments strongly about that. It's just, it seemed uncharacteristic. And so anyways, Susanna has kind of been playing a lot of video games in her free time, downtime, and really
Not a lot. It's
Well,
like when we're traveling on airplanes and stuff, that's when I'll do it.
and but you're doing it in you approached this in a very kind of intentional way of like, just letting your brain kind of, we can watch TV and Netflix and movies and play games in an intentional way that just kind of lets us like numb out very intentionally, for a period of time. And Susanna had, a lot of, she could beat herself up and say, oh, I, can only play 2 more games and then I got to go back to work and do this, that, and that. And she could have that dialogue going around her relationship with this video game. But what I've observed is Susanna has this dialogue going that really invites a level of peace and trust, knowing that she's not going to become some video game-aholic and disconnect from reality and be totally absorbed in her game all the time. She trusts that her wisdom will wake her up to be present with me or any other family member or any other part of her life whenever that is necessary, because that is the truth. So, it's been nice and kind of interesting to witness this relationship where Susanna does wake, not that you're falling asleep, but you're waking up and coming in and out of this relationship with the video game in a way that I think probably not many people who play video games on their cell phone have. I imagine a lot of people do have a true kind of addiction to some degree, and have probably caught up with a lot of self-talk, judgments, and self-criticism about that so-called addiction. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and speaking from the person who's playing the video games, I downloaded this game initially because the ad said, oh, exercise your cognitive function. And I just thought, oh, that would be a nice thing to do while I'm, waiting for this or doing that. And it was really fun when I started playing this game. It was really fun. It's a good challenge for my brain, and it's just fun to, I don't know, it's fun. And at that point in my life, I was just wanting more fun, craving more fun.
Yeah.
And sometimes we can work a lot.
Sometimes we can forget about the fun.
Yeah. And so it was helping keep me light. But at a certain point, after playing a few rounds of this game, it's like, oh, there's something pulling me back to, being present with my husband or getting something done that I need to get done that day. And that's nice. That's what we're talking about.
It's nice that wisdom pierces through and does exist.
It does. And I trust that it's there. And I think when we're more open to really just trusting where that wisdom takes us, then we can hear it more often. We're more sensitive to it. Yeah. Versus, if there's so many thoughts in your head about should and shouldn't and blah, 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 blah. That's what we're talking about. Those thought storms, they take us away from being sensitive to that inner wisdom, the voice of your inner wisdom. And
Yep.
Yeah.
So I am curious, for those of you who are with us, for those of you who made it through this week's episode, what is your relationship with the self-talk, the inner dialogue, the shoulds? Are you trusting that wisdom that is moving you, or was your ego, for lack of a better term, trying to micromanage the situation of your health, your life, your well-being? So I'm just curious how this has landed, and feel free to leave a comment or a rating or review wherever you're watching or listening to this, and let us know. And if you are looking, once again, for a supportive community to feel supported by, feel inspired by, receive some guidance and support from, feel free to come on into the plant-based and stress-free community. We'd be happy to continue this conversation on an ongoing basis. And we send you off into the remaining days of 2019 with a lot of peace and joy and blessings of health and happiness and love, and trusting that that wisdom is alive and well in each and every one of you, and moving you into a healthy direction come the new year, or actually come the next moment. We don't have to wait until the new year, any moment, the identified moment, to make any change. We can make the change when the inspiration wakes us up to make the change. So whenever that is, we trust you are supported and connected with it.
Yes.
And on that note, sending you with peace and love, and until next year.
Bye for now. Bye 2019.
So long 2019. See you soon 2020. Peace and love.